Giants schedule real quick? Because I did not see this last night. So you like Giants Titans? I think it's week 3. That's a Brian Daboll revenge game. Okay, and in week 1, the Titans play my Jets, a Robert Saleh revenge game. Okay, so the Titans play New York, both New York teams in the first 3 weeks. That to me is fascinating, and I'm just telling you, my offseason team, Tennessee Titans. I was a year early. I wasn't wrong. I was just early. I would keep an eye on the Titans. I like their draft. I like what they did in free agency, and I love Saleh and Daboll. They are going to make some noise in the maybe they're this year's Colts. Remember the Colts were like 7-1 or something crazy?
We won't talk much about the Colts, but I will remind people if you have the Colts on your schedule, do not.
All right. So, we're going to discuss the Titans. I fully expected Colin to say something like, we're not going to spend much time on the Titans. Which, you know, surprise, surprise. But I actually want to talk about the Titans. I'm going to be one of the very few people out there who will genuinely look at the Tennessee Titans schedule and break it down, because I agree with JMac 100%. But before we do that and fully dive in, Tennessee Titans fans, please, please, please do not forget to subscribe and watch the entire video from start to finish. When you do that, the view counts absolutely explode. Subscriber numbers go through the roof. And this isn't about chasing views or chasing subscribers for their own sake. It's about being able to create Tennessee Titans content that people genuinely want to watch and discuss, so we can keep having the best, most unbiased, grounded, and genuine conversations about the Titans. Because again, Colin said this about the Colts, and trust me, he's not going to be talking about the Titans that much either. I want to be able to make actual Titans content that people genuinely want to watch and engage with. So please do consider subscribing. It really goes a long way when you watch the video and subscribe at the same time. That seems to have a pretty big impact. So let's jump right into it. Because like I said, you're probably not going to see many mainstream shows out there breaking down the Tennessee Titans schedule. So, allow me to do that. So, okay. I totally agree about the Jets and Giants games, right? September 13th and September 27th, that's week 1 and week 3. I love both of those games for the Titans. Love them. Love them. Love them. And honestly, that's a big advantage for the Titans in both matchups. The schedule is staggered, though, because you have an Eagles game in between. That's going to be a tough contest. But if you're going to play the Eagles early in the season, that's definitely the best time to do it, because they're working on a new offense. They're going to have some growing pains, new coordinator, new system, new weapons to integrate. It's definitely a new-look team with some early struggles to sort out. Robert Saleh just faced them, I almost said in the Super Bowl, but it was the wild card round, but again, it's going to be a different offensive appearance. So we'll have to see how quickly they can hit the ground running. Even some of the best offenses in NFL history still take a minute or two to get going. So depending on how you feel about the Eagles, playing them early is definitely a what do we have here kind of situation. That's exactly what happened the year they won the Super Bowl. Then a similar situation with the Baltimore Ravens, although that's week 4, later into the season. At that point, it's going to be a new offense for Lamar Jackson and his coordinator. But at the same time, Lamar is kind of the ultimate fallback quarterback. If something's not working, he can just say, whatever, I'll do it myself. So either way, even if the Ravens also take a few weeks to find their rhythm, I still think that'll be a tough matchup. Then you go up against the Texans, elite defense, we know that. And then of course the Colts, where I'm liking the Titans as well. Then you face the Browns. This will be the first, I don't want to say equal footing, but the most balanced situation. You're talking about 2 teams trying to right the ship, right? 2 teams with new coaching staffs, new quarterbacks, or year 2 quarterbacks. People think these quarterbacks now have the right coaches. But listen, it might be Deshaun Watson, who knows? I don't know if it'll be Deshaun. Could be Shadur. I'm not going to figure that out too hard on May 18th. But if it is Shadur, it's a fascinating matchup because you're talking about 2 quarterbacks both trying to figure things out, both in year 2, new coaching staffs, etc. So I put that on somewhat more equal footing on the spectrum. Because then you go up against Joe Burrow, who's obviously been in the league for years and is special. And some of these games, when you're looking at facing the Bengals and Burrow, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, Jalen Hurts and the Eagles, this is where I look to Robert Saleh. I am very quarterback-driven, and I kept saying to really watch out for Cam Ward and Brian Daboll. That's the main duo we should all be watching, more than Robert Saleh, even though Saleh is the head coach. That's why I was so in favor of getting someone like Jeremiah Love, some sort of elite offensive weapon rather than a defensive one. I said, make things easier for Brian Daboll and Cam Ward. Robert Saleh, you're the awesome defensive coach, you're the head coach, take that burden on yourself. Put it on your own shoulders, make things easier for them. And they did that. But when you're going against Lamar, when you're going against Joe Burrow, I'm not automatically saying, come on, Cam Ward and Brian Daboll, you have to keep up. Be ready for a shootout. I'm more interested in what Robert Saleh can do to slow those offenses down. Can he muddy the waters and make it a tougher, uglier, more physical game, at least on defense? So when I see those types of matchups, that's what stands out to me. Then a continuation of that, obviously, with division games against the Jacksonville Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence. Then you've got the Cowboys. This game is actually such a sneaky barometer game. Such a sneaky barometer game. The Cowboys, for years, are so good at dominating teams that are clearly a level below them. Even if it's just one level below, they're so good at just little brothering them. 100%. And then when there's a team on their level, it's a competitive back-and-forth game. And when a team is clearly better than them, it's not even close, you're clearly outmatched, you don't have what it takes. So I'm fascinated to see what this Tans Cowboys matchup looks like. I'll tell you right now, if you get blown out, you're probably not ready. If you play competitively, then okay. And I won't see it as a random situation because this has been so consistent for Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. I don't like to use a long history as a strong reference point, I'm the king of saying, let's focus on what's happening right now. I certainly don't hold people's feet to the fire for what Dak did in 2018 or what the Cowboys did 30+ years ago. I'll talk about that from a franchise perspective, but I'm not going to look at this team and say, you haven't done it in 30 years, because this team has nothing to do with 2004. But it has been so constant for the Cowboys for years and years. Maybe it's a Dak Prescott thing, I don't know. But it's been so constant. Destroys the teams below, everyone gets excited, then it's competitive, and you wonder where it's going to go against equal or better teams. They just get little brothered. So it's a very fascinating matchup. Then again, of course, the Jaguars again. Then you're back with the Commanders. This is another interesting situation because Jayden Daniels obviously had an awesome rookie year. Sophomore year, you pretty much throw it away. I don't know if there was any real growth or development for Jayden and that offense. Now he's in a new system, new coach, new pieces around him. And at this point you're talking about December, so I'm sure he'll be completely settled. Why then? But year 2 for me, even though it's technically year 3, you're talking about quarterbacks at a similar level of experience. Joe Burrow already knows an insane amount of football. Lamar Jackson has been in the league for years and is a longtime MVP. Jalen Hurts has been to multiple Super Bowls. Their resumes and experience levels are just far beyond a second-year guy like Cam Ward. So that's why I find matchups like Shedeur Sanders versus Jayden Daniels slightly more telling. Same thing with Jackson Dart in New York, of course. And it doesn't matter who the quarterback is for New York, I assume it'll be Geno Smith at least in week 1. Then you're on to the Lions. This is interesting for the Lions because they have a lot of momentum going into this season. I like their roster a lot. I love their schedule. Their schedule is really the only one I've looked at deeply where I thought, this is an awesome schedule. You can be a top team in the NFL, and with this schedule, you can absolutely leverage that into being the number 1 seed, first round bye, etc. But this is where it's interesting to go up against a team like the Titans. Because the Lions have typically, with Ben Johnson, but the meat and potatoes of this team, they absolutely dominate lower-tier teams. To the point where I don't care what you do. Everyone's always like, that's right, we won 42-3, and I don't care. That team is clearly nowhere near your level. That means truly nothing to me. There are no takeaways. I already know you can blow out bad teams. It means nothing. I'm trying to figure out how competitive you are against the Chiefs, against the Eagles, against the Packers. That matters to me, not blowing out a team you're clearly better than. So this is another interesting barometer game, for different reasons than I usually look at. Where do you stand against a team that over the last 2, 3, 4 years has historically blown out lower-level teams? And we have to be honest, the Titans have obviously been a lower-level team for many moons. So those games are going to be a bit more telling than meets the eye. Then, of course, the Colts again. Then the Raiders, you're in an interesting situation. The Raiders, I assume at this point it's probably going to be Mendoza, but it absolutely could be Kirk Cousins, which really changes things. But even so, it's late in the season, so even if it is Mendoza, I'm sure he'll be quite settled. The one thing, unfortunately, for poor Robert Saleh, I always talk about this, great defensive coaches have one of their calling cards be the ability to beat young quarterbacks, especially rookies. So far, there are no real situations. Maybe Shadur with the Browns, but outside of that, there's no strong situation. Again, maybe Jackson Dart in year 2, new system earlier in the season, if you want to hedge with Saleh there. But the real opportunity for that will be the Raiders, and I don't know if it's Mendoza. If it is Mendoza, it'll probably be weeks later. Maybe Mendoza starts week 10 or something. Hard to predict. Aaron Rodgers has officially signed with the Steelers. January 3rd, I don't know. Is he still healthy? Is he still playing? Is it Drew Aller? Is Drew Aller with the Steelers now? I can't keep up. Or Will Howard, is that the other one? I don't know right now. I need to refresh that. And then, of course, you've got the Houston Texans in the final week of the season, which could mean something or could mean nothing. So listen, this is a well-balanced schedule, I'd say. I also think you don't have any long stretch of games where you're like, whoa, this is brutal right now. And listen, sometimes when you're a team like the Titans, you really want an easy schedule. You don't care what it looks like in terms of perception. The Patriots had apparently one of the easiest schedules in NFL history. And if you're a team like the Titans trying to right the ship, get back on track, and be a legit competitive team, you don't care about any of that stuff. You're like, whatever. We'll take all the wins we can get. We'll take the fun. We just want to be competitive. We just want to feel like we can actually do something. Even if it's a little bit of fool's gold, it still feels good to move forward, to feel like you're actually in these games and winning them. And I think that's totally fair. This schedule doesn't open that door. This schedule, really as a whole, if we're being honest with ours, lands as the ultimate barometer schedule. You're going to see some young quarterbacks, some seasoned veteran quarterbacks, truly elite quarterbacks, Super Bowl winning quarterbacks, MVPs. You're going to go up against some awesome defenses, by virtue of the Texans alone, but also the Eagles, the Ravens, I imagine. We'll see what happens with some of these other teams' defenses, but at the very least, the Eagles and Ravens will be competent defenses, and early in the season they most likely won't have devastating injuries, fingers crossed, I don't want to see anyone hurt. So you're going to face some tough defenses. You're going to face a combination of maybe some weaker defenses, some strong great quarterbacks, some young up-and-coming quarterbacks, some quarterbacks who make you wonder why they're still in the NFL, or who are trying to prove they belong. So it really is a perfect blend of games. I think at the end of the season, you're going to have a great representation of who this team truly is. That's one of the problems with having such a super easy schedule, even if you win a lot of extra games, it's hard to gauge who you are. That's why a lot of people are confused about the Patriots right now. People are genuinely confused because they say, well, they only beat bad teams last year. And yeah, they got to the Super Bowl, but those playoff games were really ugly and weird. They even had to beat a backup quarterback or other quarterbacks who played awful. Herbert? Was it Justin Herbert? I forget already. Herbert and C.J. Stroud. And then when they finally played a competent team, they got smoked. So that's why people are like, who are the Patriots? I'm optimistic about them, but it's a little harder to figure out. This schedule? Not at all. When it's all said and done, whether you win 5 games or 15 games, you're going to know exactly who this team is. That's so important for management and coaching because then they know how to move forward. It's never about just this year. The clock starts today. It's year 1. But it's not about doing everything in year 1. When you bring in a new coaching staff and have a young quarterback, it's just about righting the ship. That's all it's about. Makes me think of when Aikman talked about how, when you get a rookie quarterback, it's a major success if you just know that you've got the guy. If you're confident he's your quarterback of the future, that's it. That's the bar. You're not trying to win a Super Bowl or make the playoffs. It doesn't matter what the story is. As long as you realize this is the quarterback, it was a successful rookie season. I agree with that. I remember making a clip about it. I feel the same way when you're talking about revamping a team, new coaching staff, a second-year quarterback who's essentially having his rookie year because the previous staff was a mess. Do you feel like you're going in the right direction? That's all I need to see. And yo, you're going to get such clarity here. You're playing such a perfectly balanced schedule that you will understand. How good is your defense right now? How good is your offense? What did it look like against the best defenses? Against the bad defenses? Against elite quarterbacks? What was Robert Saleh able to do? Could he force turnovers on Joe Burrow or something? It's going to be a great barometer of a season. That will help guide you into next year's offseason, figuring out what to do in free agency, the draft, etc. So it's actually a pretty great spot. A really great spot, because you're going to accurately understand where you are right now. I think it's great. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you all think about the Tennessee Titans? How do you feel about the schedule? How do you feel about what J-Mac is saying, and Colin kind of being uncomfortable, not wanting to go there necessarily, but saying be on the lookout for the Titans? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here. I'd absolutely love to see you be part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to. Something we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.